you, the board that is not here and that kicked us out the other night and brutalized us in the little tiny elevator room, shame on you. You are going to have to listen to us. I want to just make a couple points about why we support Bradley Manning as women. You know, it's women who do all the caring work when men and women come home from war. You know, we do the healthcare work, we do the work of supporting stressed out people, we help with addiction, we help with a whole set of problems, and women worldwide in all kinds of wars and occupations under the most horrific conditions do this work of caring for people and holding communities together. Now, Bradley Manning is our hero of the board because of 3 leaks I'm going to mention. For many leaks, but I want to mention 3. One is the leak about the extensive and systematic cover-up of the rape of women and children in Afghanistan and in Iraq. 2 is the NGOs collaborating against the people of Haiti who are organizing for wages. These were leaks. 3 is the U.S. and the NGO collaboration against Hugo Chavez in Venezuela, who was our president, a caring president, who took care of his people by diverting oil monies to the community. We are an anti-war organization. The NGOs in this town that are run by gay elite people, we are calling you out now. You have prioritized our right to kill. You have not supported Bradley Manning, who is refusing to kill. And our movement is about being against war and for people, against the 1%, against the rich gay elite, who, as many of you know, Harvey Milk was up against too, and he was murdered in this.
My name is Tom Temprano. I'm the president of the Harvey Milk LGBT Democratic Club, which will actually be meeting at 7 p.m. right across the street at the LGBT Center for a panel discussion on how our club can be involved in supporting Bradley and in fighting back against Pride's unjust revocation of his honor. I wanted to read an official statement by the executive board of our club on this, so forgive my staring at my phone, I just don't have it memorized. The executive board of the Harvey Milk LGBT Democratic Club is disappointed and angered by the recent announcements made by the SF Pride Board, which initially named Bradley Manning as Grand Marshal of this year's parade, and then recanted Manning's nomination in response to some predictable opposition. The Milk Club Executive Board fervently supports Bradley Manning's active conscience and ongoing struggle for basic fundamental rights. Manning's struggle is symbolic of the struggle of countless individuals to enjoy fair and just treatment under the law. SF Pride has never before shied away from such controversy, and we question why this was handled in such an abrupt and unusual way. We would like to remind the board of SF Pride that all of our LGBT rights have come through actions such as Manning's, such as Stonewall, such as the Compton's cafeteria riots, in opposition to those institutions and laws that would prefer we did not exist.
My name is Jim Dorncott, and I just want to take a minute to express a really heartfelt appreciation for what Bradley's doing. As a Vietnam veteran, when I was in the Navy, I was in the Tonkin Gulf when the non-incident took place. And I saw enough evidence to question what was going on. And I was around Bradley's age, and I didn't take the steps that Bradley took. And God bless him, his courage, his conscience, his caring about humanity is an amazing light for us to be honoring. And I just hope everything goes as well as it can for him. Thank you.
And Dianne Feinstein and Barack Obama and George Bush and the generals at the Pentagon are the ones who put the troops in danger by sending them over there. So you don't want the troops to be in danger, bring them home. Right? Manning. Support.
My name is Jay Lyon, and I want to speak about Bradley, what he's done for the service and for all of us. I want to amplify on Richard's remarks, which inspired me. Richard talked about how the people in that helicopter who were massacring civilians and children below them were sick, had been damaged. There was a letter writer to the BAR who described Bradley Manning as a sick young man with a lot of problems who needed to be understood because he had acted out of his personal confusion. This is so wrong. The corporate media, the mainstream, the government always tries to portray people who oppose it, who question its premises and its violence as sick. The real sick ones, and I don't even mean this as an insult, all those soldiers who stuff it in, who go on and do their job, who don't say anything, who get out and who kill themselves. There is like one military suicide every day. Right. Bradley Manning was healthy enough to try to save himself and save others by speaking about the torment and the cruelty he saw all around him. So he is the savior. We owe him so much, and this is why it is so wrong to deprive him, Ford, of the honor that the gay people who have also suffered from, all the cruelty that's been done to us, that we have accorded him. I want to tell you, Board, I am furious at the way that you have made Bradley and us into unpersons, as 1984 said. You refused to listen to us, you promised us another meeting, and then you canceled that. You are just trying to obliterate us, and I want to get even with you. I don't know how, but I think we have to find a way to make them suffer.
I think it was good to mention the number of that there's soldier suicides going on more than ever. They just increased in that. And many of those soldiers are part of the poverty draft, having to be in the military, just trying to get an education or to be able to afford a home. And that's how a lot of these people are recruited, so to speak. But also, there's so many issues that this raises, and one is freedom of the press. I read recently that originally Bradley Manning had gone to the New York Times with some of this information, had gone to some major papers. No one would take it but WikiLeaks. So do we have a democracy if we can only find out the truth from WikiLeaks? No, you're not at all. And also, I don't know what the big problem about this top secret information was. I read in one account that 20,000 or so people had information that Bradley had access to it. Another article said 500,000 people had access to what Bradley Manning did have. If this is so top secret, then how come at least tens of thousands of people had access to this information? And Bradley stands out because he was one of all those many, many, many people who were brave enough to bring the information to us. Thank you, Bradley. Thank you, Julian Assange.
This is a lot about individual and collective action, because this strikes to the heart of what Pride is about. Pride is supposed to support our community. This is supposed to be a celebration of all that we are. So we need to step forward. All of us looking around, we each represent very diverse communities, and we need to go to those communities and ask, what can we do to take back Pride, to make San Francisco Pride representative of the LGBT, the queer community here in San Francisco? And to bring that discussion back to what can we each do as communities, recently some radical fairies got together and we decided that we would make Bradley Manning the first annual Queen of the Fairies for Pride this year. So come stop by Fairy Freedom Village and celebrate the anti-corporate, pro-community aspects of Pride with us. Thank you.
So Tommy, can you tell me why this occurred here today?
Because Bradley Manning was chosen by the Electoral College of former Grand Marshals to be a Grand Marshal in this year's parade. And the board of Pride rescinded that. They just reversed it. And so when that happened, we protested. We held a press conference and demanded that they reinstate him. And they didn't. And then they decided to hold a public meeting, supposedly to get our input and to reconsider the issue. But they canceled the public meeting after we arrived. They wouldn't let us in. And we then stormed in. We got into the building. And a Pride person promised us last Tuesday night that there would be a meeting tonight, a public meeting, so that we could go and voice our concerns. And then this weekend, they issued a statement canceling that public meeting and saying that the issue was closed and that they had made the decision and that was it.
So this
that's
was a
why
mock.
we're here.
This was a protest and a mock trial.
So this is a mock trial. This is our reaction to their shutting down public.
One thing you could repeat for me, as I missed it last time, could you just tell me about what you said about the history, the radical? It was a protest. Could you repeat what you said about that? That it was not a pride. It was a.
Well, originally Pride was a protest march, and the folks who created the gay liberation movement after Stonewall were folks coming out of the anti-war movement, like myself. I was in SDS. Anti-war movement, the anti-war movement, the women's movement, the black civil rights movement, all these movements. The gay liberation movement didn't happen in a vacuum. It happened because of these other movements, and because we were all involved in these other movements. And then when Stonewall happened, that kind of galvanized us, and gay liberation happened. The gay pride marches came out of the same spirit, the spirit of defiance, the spirit of not wanting to be accepted, but wanting to change society, which is what all these other moves had the same idea. We didn't want to have to change ourselves and be accepted. We wanted everybody else, the society, to change. So the gay pride marches were protest marches, and we had demands, lists of demands. And I remember in 1972 when I helped organize the gay pride march in Philadelphia, one of our demands was an end to the Vietnam War, you know. And then a couple years later, I was still on the Pride Committee in Philadelphia, and one of our demands was free the Black Panthers. And then in the late 70s, when Susan Sachs, who was a lesbian who had been involved in a bank robbery as part of an anti-war movement, she was caught in Philadelphia. And in fact, she was living with a friend of mine. And at that point, there was a lot of controversy within the movement about whether we should support her. And in fact, the movement did support her. We supported Susan Sachs. So this movement has a very radical history. Our roots are radical. And
don't you think they try to do that with all movements, carnivalize them?
And that's I think what's happened here. This is the selling out of our movement. I mean, it's been happening, but this is a real indication, I think, of how far the movement has sold out. And I have to say, unfortunately, it's also a product of getting rid of Don't Ask, Don't Tell. It's a product of that mentality, that mindset of, you know, being pro-military, wanting to go into the military and go fight and kill. I mean, I think this is a product of that. You don't want to offend the military now. You don't want to offend, you know?
Yeah.
It's really sad to me as an old-timer that we've come to this, you know?
All right, Tommy. Well, thank you very much. Really appreciate that.
I think I'm losing my voice.
Hey.